this special city council meeting to order, and we're just going to let
If you could give me a call back.
Mr.
I'm
Georges.
stepping into a meeting. Okay, if you could give me a call back, say in about an hour, I'd appreciate it. Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, all right, bye-bye. That was my cardiologist.
gotcha.
He says I
Are you
could,
going to
Are
make
you
it
allowed
through
to
the
be here?
meeting?
yes, he said I could stay for the meeting.
But you have to show up at his office right after this.
Good to know.
And maybe we would put a roll call in.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make sure that he could answer the roll call.
I was gonna call him first, just to mess everything up.
Of course.
So
So.
I would have.
Mayor Scripture,
Here.
Councilmember Georges,
Present.
Councilmember Moffitt is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Sampson,
Here.
Councilmember Shepherd. Here. That is a quorum, Madam Mayor. Full vote. Not a full boat. A boat.
A boat that won't capsize.
Small skiff.
All right.
Right.
Okay. Then, next on the agenda, we have public comment, and I see Ms. Phillips is here, so if you please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon. I would like to publicly comment on the agenda item concerning the Clawson City Hall's loss of 4 managers in less than 2 years. It is due directly to the mayor and city council creating chaos by undermining the manager's attempts to perform their duties. The managers were hired to make decisions and have been instructed by our city's toxic work environment. We don't need to find another interim. Rather, we can use the previous interim manager, which would save tax dollars. Thank you.
Who's the previous interim?
Whoever it is we used last time.
That would have been a contractor. That would have been Mr. Haberman.
Haberman, yeah.
He was paid for by GovTemps, same thing. Just, yeah.
Yeah, we-
Just to be clear.
He's in Ohio,
I
too.
guess we agree with
But
her.
I'm just, the point is that you said, I didn't know if you wanted to amend that to maybe,
A name.
or someone that,
Yeah.
your point was you didn't want to spend the money.
Yeah, the point is, I hate to keep seeing this happen, and I just think allowing the managers to do what they were hired to do would alleviate the need to keep hiring new people. That's all I was trying to say.
Cool.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Nishai.
My apologies.
Come on,
4 o'clock is a little tricky.
I apologize, but you know what? I'm kind of tired of having a meeting every night.
I love meetings every night. What are you talking about?
You're welcome to them.
Thank you.
Fine, someone will happily join you. All right, so
Join the club.
I called the special meeting.
Madam Mayor, there is one phone caller on the
Oh,
Zoom
for
meeting
public
that
comment. I
may
thought it
want to
was
speak.
Gina.
Yep.
I thought we already said it was Gina.
There's also a phone caller on the line. Phone
Apologize.
caller with the last 4 digits of 4400. If you'd like to speak, please press *9 on your keypad. That will raise your virtual hand. Or you can unmute. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, but I'm just here listening. Just wanted to join in, so I don't really have anything to add.
Okay, thank you, caller.
Thanks, Ken. Sorry, I thought you had said only Gina was on there, so I wasn't. Gina would know to just jump in if she needed to, so. All right. So, yes, called the special meeting for a couple purposes. First was to maybe take the opportunity, for those who don't know, at 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
Yes.
6 o'clock this evening,
1800.
we're having a workshop that is for the purpose of looking at council versus city manager roles. And I think that under the circumstances, maybe looking at, I guess you would call it an after-action review, if we were to use a military term, and to have an after-action review and look at an improvement plan discussion on council actions in terms of the city manager, hiring, oversight, process, that type of thing, which might also give us some stuff that leads into the 6 o'clock meeting. It might generate some questions and some conversation too that we haven't thought of. So one thing I did, because I think it was important to do, is you gentlemen are newer, but we had 2 council members that were here for the whole time, and I thought it was worth getting their input. So I sent them an email, I had August send them an email and asked them if they would like to submit comment, or I invited them to come, but if they couldn't, if they wanted to submit comments. So I do have a few comments. And let me just kind of go over, normally I would love to see something like this facilitated. It would be better, but that's okay. We're going to work with what we can work with. So, but the questions, it's really kind of 4 simple questions to go over. One of them would be, what did we expect? What did the council expect to happen with a city manager position? And then I would, whenever possible, like to avoid, speaking in specifics because that's, but it may come up once in a while. But still, what would the council expect to happen? And in your perspective, maybe, what would you think it should? You weren't here. We were actually sitting down and talking about what we expected. So what was expected to happen with the city manager relationship and how council manages that relationship? What actually occurred? What went well or poorly and why? And what can be improved and how? Are kind of the 4 topics. So looking at the first one, and what I think might be easiest is to just go ahead and read the comments from and then go internally here. So looking at the first question, Kathy Phillips sent her comments in, and along the lines of what she said was expected to happen, she said that she would have expected that the city manager would, the job, would actually, that the goals set would be accomplished at least at a level of average. That there would be an open door policy for the community and council members, that the city manager would be an example for all the rest of the staff and be a true leader, and that that in partnership would begin to move the city back into the good shape it was in previously. So let's see, sorry, I've got 3 of them here. Councilmember Moffitt replied that what she thought was expected to happen, that the council in its leadership role would work collaboratively to facilitate the success of the city manager and allow the city manager to work in a positive environment for the betterment of the community. Further, it is expected that members of council would not rely on the city manager to protect the employment of close personal friends whose own illegal action contributed to their dismissal from their position. So she's not here to clarify, so I'm just going to read what's here. And then former Council Mayor Pro Tem Milan, I'm actually, she seems to be responding to the actual agenda of the evaluation, which was, but I'll go ahead and read, acknowledge the employee for successes and opportunities for improvement, communicate and identify goals, motivations, and timelines, create a mutually beneficial plan of action, identify and define expectations as a two-way street, encourage teamwork, commitment, establish a value, responsibility, and goals for your community, create a timeline for corrective action, should they be necessary, and establish follow-up dates for any future goals, corrective actions, ask questions of the employees, or what resources does the employee need to reach its goal, what challenges, and ask them what they might be most proud of and their urgent needs. So that was some of the feedback from our former Mayor Pro Tem, our former Council Member Phillips, and current Council Member Moffitt. So just looking at that first one, I'd actually, as 2 people that would have been on the outside, what would you maybe have expected when in hiring the city manager and a city manager coming into the position? Oh, Councilmember Milan, I would, or ex-member Pro Tem.
Just
I would. Hi, I would have been happy to allow you to read your comments, and I do. I just read them, but if you want to read when we get to the other ones, okay. Just because more informal on this, it's okay. So what would you have thought? Because it is possible that you may be involved in hiring another one. What would you think? What would you expect to happen with a city manager in that role? How would you expect that role to play out? That's the kind of question we're asking. I mean, we obviously know what we really expected. What might you? And either one of you, whoever talks first.
Well, as far as it should be clearly stated, I think it does, as far as within the charter, right? But at the same time, as far as, okay, well, what level do you expect to have that be acceptable, right? And what are those measurable data, and what, have they been defined other than what's in the charter, right?
You're talking about the job description?
Yeah, exactly.
The duties of the city manager in the
Yes,
charter.
so as far as, so it should be plain to see as far as, okay, these are the expectations, right? And if you either 1 through 5, however that's calculated on a scale, right? And again, it has to be measurable data, right? The preponderance as far as whether or not things get done, that may have a percentage as far as what it contributes to the overall evaluation. I heard as far as data, excuse me if I'm not speaking in the microphone, whether or not it has day-to-day tasks are one thing. Well, what does that constitute? Is that 100%? Is it 80? Is it 50? Is it 25? Something like that. So that you can put that in a bucket and say, okay, this is what we expect to have happen to keep things going, but then there's other measurable things on a scale that we would expect to be above and beyond that, that also would see as far as, okay, from 1 through 5, meets or exceeds, or it's something in those lines, right? So that, and then you can have 3 objectives that says like, okay, these are the items that we want to have as a community that are agreed to between council and the city manager, but also have other things that are brought in from city staff and the city manager themselves as far as, okay, what are your goals? And are they something that we can have measurable data for? And again, agree on what that should be as far as how it can contribute to the overall percentage as far as what that may be, 50%, 33, something like that, so.
So if I'm hearing you, you're saying take those components of the job description and break those, where applicable, apply goals and objectives.
But, I mean, you can say that every one of those is important, but as far as the weight, as far as what we expect.
So the weight of the.
Right, so we're not saying like, day-to-day activities, 20%, 25, whatever that may be.
Okay.
Right, and then have certain objectives by such and such a date. You have 3 main items, or be able to respond to something that, may, supersede whatever it was for that annual target, right? And then maybe on a quarterly basis, review what those items are, find out as far as, okay, how well are we doing as a community, right? Not just on the city manager, well, I would expect them to be the lead on that, and then reevaluate whether or not goals have changed and because we need to have some flexibility, right? So.
Sure, COVID
anyway.
taught us that.
So.
Okay. So that would be, and I think, just to give a little context, if I remember correctly, when we talked about this going into what we would look for in a city manager, there was kind of the soft skills, and then there was, I don't want to say hard skills, like maybe soft. The job description is really only about very specific duties. And then, of course, you have those soft skills that go with it, leadership. So what it sounds like you were just kind of describing on the hard skills.
Well, it's also, that's part of it, right? There's also the input that we're receiving from citizens, city staff, possibly other communities, and get that gauge as far as how that's also measured, how we put that into, again, measurable data. Again, I'm thinking at the top of my head for some of these things, right? But as far as, how you're going to get complaints, right? A lot of times you may have a measurable data as far as the number of complaints that come in for one reason or another, right? Or, given an emergency situation, what was the time allotted in order to have a response go out, right? So, I mean, those are some of the things that necessarily.
Set more specific standards.
Yeah, and as far as.
Then it's easier to know where the bar is.
I mean, you're going to have people that are going to say one thing or the other, right? But as far as if you get enough people to share their opinion, willing to share their opinion, right, that you can put together, and if you have a large enough pool, potentially that could be something that's used as measurable data and not just, opinions of, 1 or 2 people.
So you'd also then I think I'm.
So that's what I'm saying, as far as, it may not be hard
Sure.
data, but
Right.
this is what the expectation is. And, get feedback as far as, okay, what is your interaction with that person? What are some things that they need to work on? Is it a preponderance of, that I think that's strong in one area, but there's 3 others that they need to work on, all right? As far as how we can, put that together, as you said, as far as.
Almost sounds like you're saying we have an evaluation that you think maybe should be beefed up.
Yeah.
The first part, I mean, the
I mean, it's the first-
onboarding, we should beef up some more specifics on the expectations even before the onboarding. The onboarding should be more specific, and then as we go on, because we've got that specificity, we would have, am I in?
Yeah, I think so. And as far as when you have somebody's expectations, it's like, okay, well, they have also expectations that they bring to the table, right? Certainly, I would want to have someone, not necessarily having an agenda, but as far as a clear, decisive direction as far as how they've done things in the past, what they plan on, what evidence that they've had of their success someplace else, and what they plan on achieving on their own, and how that fits into what we have for our criteria that we'd like to establish.
All right. George?
It's an interesting question. Oh, here we go. It's an interesting question, and the reason I say that, if we look back at the history of what we've done or what has been done, okay, I don't think anybody has really thought the process out as to setting up the policies and the procedures and actually reducing it to writing as what somebody has to do, okay, as part of their job description, all right? And right now, the 5 of us, okay, are the governing body of the city. And we have to, it's our responsibility to set some goals, okay, targeted efforts that we want to accomplish, fix the streets, fix the lighting, get rid of the, I don't want to say rats, but get rid of the rats, okay?
Better baseball fields.
Yeah, on that, send them that way, send them to Troy, okay? But anyway.
Throwing bones here.
Yeah.
I need some baseball.
If we set the goals, okay, and then we can sit down with whomever the city manager is going to be, and we can say that here's what we're looking to accomplish, okay, and it becomes your responsibility to accomplish these goals, but you're going to have to report back to us. And I don't see that reporting back to the city council because, and this is where I'm trying to learn, okay, we have what's called a strong city manager, and we have a weak council. And I don't think that's really true because we hire the guy. So that makes us have some type of strength because, as it's been proven, we just fired him, okay? It wasn't him, but it was us. And that was because he didn't respond to the needs of the city council. So I'm saying that what we have to do is establish some priorities that he's given that he has to work with. For example, okay, let's say we want to have a monthly financial statement, my pet peeve. It can be done. We just have to tell him that's what we want. And then they have to do it. Now, if he doesn't do it, okay, that's a strike against him on that. And then if you let the citizens, and I just have a curious question. Can we find out how many people are actually watching this? Doesn't he keep track back there of how many people are on?
It's a YouTube stream. I don't know that he can do that.
Not
For
until
this,
afterwards?
there's 3 people there on Zoom, but that's for participation. It's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll find out later.
Yeah, you can look on Zoom
Yeah,
later.
it'll
say
show you right
number
on the
of-
YouTube how many people have looked.
Because I'm always curious to see how many citizens are actually watching what we're talking about. Now, the good thing is if we track that information every time we have a meeting and we start to see an increase, okay, that means we have a positive force going. If we don't see an increase, that means we're not doing our job because people just aren't interested in watching what we're doing or listening to what we're doing. Okay, so I go back to what was said at the termination meeting, okay, is that policies, we have to have some policies in place, okay, and that's our responsibility, okay, not his, okay? And
Or
from
hers.
those policies, okay, it's going to, in essence, develop his responsibilities on there.
So to your comment earlier about the strong week, I do believe that's one of the when we get that tonight, that'll help, I think.
Indeed.
Get a
I hope so.
clear, what that, yes.
I'm told there's 19 people currently watching the YouTube.
Oh, wow.
I have 17 on my.
Okay.
Well, the other thing though we have to remember is a lot of people come back,
Sure,
to court, they
absolutely.
come
And
back
we
later.
count, so.
We count that too, right.
Now,
But they come back later and we
but
can
here-
always go back and look.
Let me just add something, and I know this
Sure.
might be totally off, but one of the things I was looking at is we have a system that is called BSNA.
Yep.
Okay, which is our accounting system, the system that handles our DPW.
Yes.
Uh,
It handles
it's-
permits, yes.
No, it doesn't do permits, does it?
They do, it's a building, there's a building department
But
module
anyway.
that they manage all that.
The thing that I came across, it's called a citizen request for action. Okay, so we can actually allow our citizens to link in and write little notes, okay? And ask for things to be done, or suggest for things to be done. Now we're starting to communicate with our citizens, okay? All, what is it, 11,000 of them?
12,
No,
11.
11,800 and something, because
Yeah.
we lost like 100 some people, okay, from the census. I'm going from the census, okay. But it's a beginning, okay? And that's what our responsibility is, to do something on a positive basis, to make it want more than 19 people to listen to us, okay?
Okay.
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm hearing very similar things, more robust definition,
Exactly.
policies, clarity about what the expectations, and
But
that's what
also-
you would
yeah.
expect, what was my question again?
Okay.
Make sure I'm on the right track. What you would expect to happen for a city manager, more robust policies, I am going to.
But the other thing
And
that I'm...
then
Yeah.
evaluating to those.
Right, but the other thing I'm saying is to use the tools that the city has, okay, so that they not only work for the city, but they work for the citizenship of the city. And like when I saw this citizen request for action, I thought it was a neat concept.
And I'm not
Have we ever
sure,
used that?
Pardon?
hold on a second, I'm not sure, but, and I don't know if you know this by now, I know that we have BSNA, but I don't know if we have every single module.
We do not. We
Okay.
do not use it.
And I'm not saying we can't.
No, I'm saying.
I'm just saying, I
okay,
don't know if that's a,
Then that brings up to the point, which I'm just gonna digress a bit.
Tools.
Okay, is, I'm making an appointment to sit down with the person who knows the system, okay? Because I wanna know what's available, okay? And then I'm gonna come back and make some suggestions that maybe we should spend the money here,
I got it.
okay?
In other words, what tools do we have and how can
Exactly.
we use them better?
Exactly, because then the citizenship becomes aware of what's happening in the city, okay, the good and the bad, okay, and where things are going. Like, for example, okay, we've got, what, $1.2 million from the federal government? Okay, I'm sure all 19 people want to know where we're going to spend that money.
I'm sure a lot more than 19, but yes.
Well, I'm saying 19 because that's who's listening, okay? That's who's listening. If they're not listening, shame on them. And they can't complain if we don't spend the money where they want it spent.
But how do we get to know what they want from that thing?
Well, that's part of the reviewing this AB and this system, okay, to see what they have that's gonna give us that ability, give and take on there. Because I can tell you this, okay, I did learn that we can do financial statements.
Of course, that's part of
okay,
our-
let me just back up a second. Financial statements are a little bit different in governmental than they are in business, okay?
Yep.
But we can develop a financial reporting system for the city.
Yep.
Okay, so people can see something versus a checkbook.
And I'm gonna go back to your point about what tools do we have, because BSNA is one tool, having community forums is another. I mean, there's ways to get feedback, the email, posting things. BSNA, I suspect, will be difficult to get people to access, yes.
We are about to launch in the next few months the TextMyGov app, which is an
There you
online application that people can directly apply. BSNA is not made for the community input,
Right.
but this specifically is made for that.
But I think the point is 100% valid. What tools do we have? Which ones can we leverage better? which new ones could we leverage, that type of thing.
Which ones are helpful, which ones are
Right.
not
I
necessarily.
mean, we don't need to
considered-
pay for a module in BSNA that costs
No,
a
we don't.
fortune if we
Or
have a
we don't
cheaper
use it,
option,
right.
or we don't use it. But it's what tools are available. It boils down to the perfect,
We don't have any
Point.
we don't use right now.
but it's the
use
perfect
everyone
point
that's
is what
Absolutely.
tools.
Okay.
That we
use
have.
better.
Okay.
That we have.
So on BSNA, so is there modules that are out there that are first priority if something is available to, if we have the budget in order to get?
We need to decide what you want. I mean, it's a very powerful suite.
Yes.
We don't have every part of the suite because we don't.
We
like-
might not have that function.
Yeah,
I'm
we don't
picturing
function
it-
that yet, right.
I'm picturing it being like something like SAP, right? Where you buy some modules and you use some of them depending on how
In a
you
way,
want to
in a
use
way,
it for.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
That's what I picked up when I took a look at it.
okay. I need to see it.
And I'm actually gonna tell you a little secret, there's some YouTube videos out there that actually do BSNA training, or,
Really?
yeah, you just
Ah.
Google BSNA and you'll find someone, there's a couple that'll just kind of give you, not training, but it'll give you overviews, because they're trying to sell you their stuff, so they'll actually go through and explain the modules and what it does, and, so, yes. Because I'll also tell you that different staff know different components. You can't ask a building department person to tell you the finance part of the BSNA, because they will look at you like you have a horn in your head. And rightfully so, so.
Sounds
yeah.
similar to how SAP.
But if you're
is
looking
used,
for
yeah.
a comprehensive, there's some tools, yeah. But to your point, I think what you're saying is, know what our tools are. You're also saying better, more robust policies, more definition to those. That's what you would have expected to happen or be there when a city manager is hired. Whatever city manager it may be, you would expect, more robust things. You said.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, if they have a project that's been working on that, we directed, say, you need to have this done to us, is there a placeholder or someplace in BSNA or whatever application where they've got, the clock has started, you can see the progress, you can see who the
Yes.
inputs are from?
Yes.
Right, so that if someone is curious as far as, okay, well, where are we on this, you can go and say, oh, guess what? It's in so-and-so's court for 3 weeks.
It does not work as a project management software.
Okay.
It's simply a tool for specifics, for purchase
But-
orders, for building. That's something you
To the
build
point,
yourself in your Outlook or
We might find a
something.
different tool.
Yeah.
Or what tool do we have, or.
Or something
it might-
completely different,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Because again, that goes back to my point as far as measurable data,
Yep.
right? So like, okay, we said at this point in time, we keep asking, and we're guessing as far as how long the time is, you can even name the project numbers, right? So, but anyway.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead, Councilmember Sampson, and then maybe, or Mayor Pro Tem, and then combine the stuff.
Well, I really agree with what George was talking about. I believe we should define our policies, because a lot of places have policies for everything. So you really, if you have a question, you look the policy up. I like the BSNA one. I believe that the council almost immediately should begin I used it when I did the engineering, was a red light, green light, yellow light. And put the colors in there and give us a report every council meeting, so we can go, oh, we kind of assigned this, it's been read for 2 months, we haven't, where are we at with it? And that report also has a projected completion date. We may move the completion date, but at least we know that it's moving. It's not all red all the time. It's yellow. We can find out we can help them with delays.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's, for example, okay, our current audit, okay, takes 6 months to accomplish. Now, why does it take 6 months to accomplish? Yes, they have until 6 months at the close of the year to finish the audit.
Oh, you mean
Right.
from the close of our fiscal year to December
Right,
when it's
right.
due? Well, they don't usually start the audit though till September, October.
Why?
Well, first of all, because you have to get the year
You
end,
need to pay everything.
yeah, I mean, there is year end transactions that have to
When's our year
occur.
end? June 30th,
June
right?
30th.
So you need to tell me?
You're still paying things that
Yeah, you are.
don't get invoiced until later. It's not like that.
And there's adjusting entries and stuff,
Right.
but it does not, and amend, and then they come back with budget amendments that we would then, but the engagement should start
Right away.
sooner than it already has traditionally, yes. But I would think more accurate with the audit
Yeah.
takes like 3 months.
I will ask those questions.
And it should be ready before December,
Yeah, I will ask those questions.
Yeah.
I just know the right person.
yeah.
Okay.
But you're correct in the sense that
It's just like, and the reason I'm asking the question that way is because the audit takes 6 months, okay, to finish. So in December, we know what we've accomplished. By June, we've already lost half the year. If we could have saved some money based on a 2-month or a month return on the audit, okay, we've lost that 3 or 4 months savings because it's taken 6 months to accomplish. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So so the audit is actually to take, so think of it, let's break this down in 2 parts, because I think it's important to understand to your point. You have the budget, appropriations, what we say we're going to spend, what we actually spend, and what does that all mean, analyzing that. What the audit actually does is take all of those numbers and present them in a way that meets, obviously, GASB, all those rules, but so somebody, like a bond person or whatever, can pick it up and say, okay, what's the financial status of the city? Not just the budget, but what, assets, debt ratios, all of those things. And then the audit also is looking for any material in the fact that, what is part of budgeting? Well, that's paying the bills and all that stuff. Are there any material issues? You know all this, George, about what an audit does. Yeah. But I think what you're actually asking for is more robust activity with the budget, getting more regular feedback on where we're at on it, what does it mean, how might we adjust, because waiting 6 months, when we're trying to create a budget, and then you get, and the audit really is just giving us over a financial picture. I think, and I would, I'm going to absolutely agree about the budget, but I think what you're getting at is more timely, and especially at the end of the year, so we can look at that while we're setting, as we're moving forward.
The interesting thing to me is when you can take a company like Ford Motor Company and General Motors, and within 2 weeks of the close of their year, okay, they have a projected profit or loss as to what they're going to have. I mean, 2 weeks.
We actually could do that too.
Okay.
That was one of my complaints. There's no reason we couldn't do that.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
We want to get back on the
Yes, sir.
agenda.
So, okay. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the evaluation policy we have now. I believe it's really a good policy. I love you guys for putting weighting in. I think weighting would be a good thing. But the one thing we got to all decide if we're going to do it, because this year we had a great policy and we didn't have 100% participation at the end of it. We only got some comments from somebody, and for both for the mid-year and the end year, there was only a few documents that ever got sent to us to compile, to agree on, hey, we all kind of agreed. Most of it was quick, word of mouth. Hey, we need to do our homework a lot better.
And we can do that for us too.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that who didn't supply whatever it was that was needed in order to fulfill this, right?
Right.
So.
Following our own policies.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just expecting other people to, but us following our own is that's one of the things you would expect.
If we have an input form, there should be 5, not 2 or 3. There should be 5. Then you can put as much time in as you want into it, but at least get it back to us. And I'm kind of saying if we're going to make a policy, let's follow it this time.
Yeah, and us adhere to it too, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
I really believe that if we have what we're talking about right now with the council, okay, a good direction, okay, we're going to have less, how do I say graciously?
I'll just blurt it out.
Well, we're going to have less 4-1, 3-2, that type of voting. Okay, we should eventually strive towards a unanimous, vote.
Because it's easy
I don't
to
think
get.
I'm being idealistic, because if everything is done and we're prepared, I guess that's the word, prepared.
Okay.
It makes it simple.
All right. So I'm not going to add anything because I think that's, but what we expected to happen, I'm going to summarize, a more robust and specific set of policies going into it, a more robust and specific set of goals and things that were set specifically with the city manager, and then as we move along, using our tools better, both us as council, staff, using those tools better to track these things, measurables, and then to evaluate all that, following what we have in place on all levels, both, us too. What system we have is what we should follow. Did I concisely think what we all might have expected to see? And I'm going to suggest, some point at the end of this, or at some point, that we think about, because that is precisely as moving into searching for the next city manager, if those things aren't in place, you've just set up, because I agree with those things, we've set up, so that is some work to do. And policies are us. Ooh, toys are us, policies are us. That is work to do, so I'm gonna leave that there. And I think some of these other categories will just kind of flow.
And to help the council get through the next few months, I would take on the red light, green light tracking.
Well, let's just think of this holistically and get,
Yeah.
first, let's.
We got to.
Hold up. Let's get through this first before we're, okay. So then my next thing was what actually occurred. And I think without having to go into deep detail, I think I'm already hearing a consensus that in the absence of some of these things, and with whatever we did set in place, because we did try and set goals, and we did, in the absence of some of these things, what actually occurred is that there wasn't specifics to hold accountable to, and that we didn't follow the policies that we actually already had as well as we could, and that it was difficult to hold accountable, maybe because there was lack of specificity, or because we just failed to do so.
Go ahead.
What I was gonna say is we didn't hold the feet to the fire. Okay?
Well, I'll say there's also managing white space, right? And you expect that from someone who's you're hiring to lead a community, right? So even if it's not necessarily clearly spelled out, you should have somebody who be able to step into those gaps and not necessarily follow as far as, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So that's all. I've heard this throughout my career, right? Just because that says what it's in your goals and objective, there's other things that are unwritten that you probably should be expected to do. and step
Actually,
up
like
and
that,
do.
didn't step into the gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Managing white space.
I kind of like stepping in the gap, but I'll go with
Okay,
managing
that's
white
fine.
space too. I'll put them both down because they're both good. Okay. Because you're right, I mean, you can't define everything or policy everything or whatever, so a good leader, a good manager is someone who can step into those gaps and perform. Anything else about what actually occurred that, I mean, we don't need to belabor it, but we can if somebody has a
I think the
thing
lack,
specific.
the lack of response between the two parties being the city council and the city manager. Things would be asked to be done, they didn't get done, okay? It's like, I would like to see this information, I'll work on it, I'll work on it, I'll work on it, I'll work on it. So we
Okay,
have to overcome the lack of response.
and I'm going to read, because I did solicit, so just comments from Councilmember Moffett. What actually occurred, city manager was placed in an impossible position in large part due to issues beyond politics in a work environment that prohibited his success and productivity. City manager was guaranteed to work under a strong manager. Weak council system was not allowed to operate as such. Councilmember Milan? I was going to say, do you want me to read it, or I offered, you may. Yes, please. And while you're coming up, I'll read Kathy's, so we can be expeditious. Kathy, Councilmember Phillips had said what actually occurred, most communication with council was minimal and repetitive, did not like when I would come to the door to chat, felt unwelcome even if he was there. Weekly memos seemed pretty much cut and paste from previous memos. Things that were said to be accomplished were not accomplished. Late council packets, information, and stuff just not received in a timely manner. So that was from, please, yes.
Okay, so the question was,
The question was,
What-
we looked at what maybe we thought should have occurred better, right? What actually occurred.
okay, so I took your questions in terms of the meeting,
That's
right?
what I thought. I
So
said that before you came in.
Because I
said,
wasn't
think
sure
Councilmember
what you
Milan-
meant, right?
That's why I asked if you want to come up.
But I still think
figured.
it's
Yes.
relevant, so that's why I actually wanted to say something. I can recall sitting through all of these meetings and giving Mike more and more and more and more and more in a time when our resources are light, staffing was light, expectations were heavy. And I feel like I remember sitting back going, how's he going to get this done? And certain people are great about saying, I want it by this, I want it by this, I want it by this. We always have to remember, 4-day work week. Whether Mike's putting in 80 hours or not, probably most of the staff is not, right? Because they don't have to, they don't have the extra perks. So you always have to consider those kind of things when you have expectations for people. My biggest concern is, I'm going to go back to what I thought the question was, which is when you have.
Wait, because I want to make sure, what you're saying is reasonable expectations.
Yes, and not making excuses, right?
And what you're
I'm
saying
not
is
making
that
excuses.
You think what actually occurred is sometimes the expectations were unreasonable.
Yes,
Okay.
based on timeline, based on.
Yep.
On capability of actually accomplishing something. Because honestly, it felt sometimes like there was a little bit of a, let's see what else we can throw this way. And, and I would not want to say people maybe didn't want him to succeed, because I think overall for this community, we want everyone to succeed, because we all have to succeed individually in order for this community to do well collectively. And that should be all of our goals, right? We should always put our, not my favorite person, you are my favorite person, things aside so that we can get things done. So my biggest concern is not, I don't even want to talk about all the things that happened with Mike, because you guys voted as a collective team. You came up with an answer. I'm a little bit taken back, but that someone just referred to it as the termination meeting and not the employee review, which is what it was supposed to be. So at an employee review, employees should have the opportunity for improvement. There should be a tick list or some sort that says, these are the things you're deficient on. These things are critical to us. No employee is ever going to satisfy one boss, let alone 5, all the time. And it's imperative that the council determine what are the key factors that have to be addressed and what things you can let slide and what things you can't let slide. So moving forward, I would hope that there would be that consideration, that compassion, that realistic expectation that everything's not going to get done. Everything is not always going to get done to satisfy you. We're just going to have to be human and understand that you may not understand all of the responsibilities that he has coming at him every day, too. We give him responsibilities and forget that he sits at City Hall where people walk in and say, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. People will suck up your day with your time if you're available, right? And part of his job is to be available, and whether it's over the phone, on emails, or whatever. So I'm just asking for that kind of compassion moving forward, and that we do actually take a list and prioritize realistically, not just, you were given 85 tasks, you only completed 82 of them. That's not real. Well, I wouldn't want that in my job. I would assume you wouldn't want that in yours as well. So those are my concerns.
Can I
missed
capture
something.
that? Because I kind of almost feel like that went expected to happen, which I'm hearing more specificity about where the opportunities to improve. If the feedback's there, then being specific on the improvement as you go along.
Yes, but
Okay.
and every employee evaluation should not be a firing squad. It should not be you come in and tell everyone what they did wrong. There were things they did that were great too. You need to kind of lead with that and then go after that and say, we asked you for this, can you tell us why it didn't get resolved? Can you tell us why you didn't have time for this? What tools are you lacking to allow us to ensure that you can achieve the goals that we set for you? And what goals do we need to set for together? Because sometimes, and I know we did a goal setting thing and everyone's had great ideas, but new, not, again, limited resources, all of that, all of those things have an impact on what can get done and how it can get done. So I would hope moving forward that it wouldn't, something wouldn't occur like occurred this past week, that someone would be given the opportunity for improvement, and someone would be given the opportunity to, I know questions were asked like, what do you have to say about this? But I think given that type of an environment, it's not really conducive for someone to say, hey, but, because it's just not, right? So there has to be some carrots to go along with the sticks, and there has to be reasonableness throughout. So those are my comments. Thank you. Good.
Ready to come back, because we have two more topics,
Oh,
so you're welcome.
I'll be ready. Thank
And
you.
actually, I want to take, because one of the points I was going to raise about what actually occurred, and it kind of ties back to the policies. I think this is all going to end up tying a lot together. I think that we failed. The original policy was for, and they were not full evaluations. The 2 interim ones were to be a more informal. And the city manager himself crossed those off. And I think where we failed is we should not have let that happen. We simply should have said, no, because for precisely those reasons, is there would be more opportunity for feedback and for improvement and those things. So I think we failed in even just letting our policy be altered like that. We should have stuck with what we had, and we didn't. So I'm not saying there was no feedback as we went along, but it wasn't structured like it should have been as it was outlined. So I was going to raise that as what actually occurred, is that we didn't. We let that, we should have just said no to that suggestion. Nope, we're going to stick with it, and we didn't.
When did the timeframe,
We-
when did that happen?
It was in November when, early November, Mr. Smith came to us based on, there was a memo that he gave us, and it's in the minutes and stuff. He came and said, okay, here's what if council generally set as objectives, here's my job description, here's these things you said you wanted, because we did have, before we hired, the conversations about what, and proposed a set of things. He proposed the goals, and then two of them were he crossed off and said, I don't think these two are necessary. And I think it was on our bad to just let that happen.
I think that's one of our failures. Through the whole year, I thought we were doing it 4 times.
Right.
2 more times would have just been short, like a checklist.
It doesn't even need to be that extensive, right? As far as, like
It
it
wasn't
says.
supposed to be.
No,
We just didn't.
it was just
and I
25
think that was
questions,
a
like,
failure.
how's my
Yes.
communications?
Yeah.
I'll give you 2, and then it's a thing I can call
Well,
you
and
and
that
say,
might have been
why?
kind of the issue, Lou, is that we had the tool for the big one, but we didn't really have that.
Yeah, we did.
Did we? I
It's a
didn't see.
checklist. The checklist was supposed to go out 4 times.
No.
Yes,
The
the
full-
check-
just the,
The checklist goes out every time.
okay.
The only 2
All right.
times is just a checklist,
Okay.
not an evaluation where we sit down.
Gotcha.
And that's where I think we failed. We allowed them. I don't know how it happened, but it just got dropped.
I think the failure, okay, if we want to start assuming responsibilities, on the consul's part, was to allow him to have, a whole list of items were read off at the evaluation meeting that we had last week, okay, that turned into a termination meeting, okay, that he hadn't accomplished. We allowed him to sit there and say nothing. We allowed him to sit there and do nothing, okay, which is a direct disrespect to the council, okay?
Well, and I'm,
So what you have to do is you have to design, and I don't know how you do it, okay, but you have to design a program where that when something is given, okay, he knows he has to do it.
well, and I think that's what we were talking, I mean, yes. And I really do want to try and avoid, I mean, obviously, we're using a reference point here, but, the downside is we, council, allowed things to continue that we felt were issues,
Well,
should have addressed them.
When you think about this, we had a policy voted on by the body,
Yes,
and somebody was allowed to change it.
no,
Without
well,
a-
yes, but we could have stopped that.
We should have stopped it.
Should have
That's what I'm
stopped
saying.
that.
We should have
Yes.
stopped it next time. So next time when we have a city manager, it's like, I don't care if you don't want them, we're still gonna do that because that's our policy.
Right.
And that would, because we all said that it would help him. Because he'd know every 3 months, he'd know exactly where he stands.
And I think for the third, and that we by default covered it, what went well, what went poorly, and why, and I think we're talking not following our own policies, not being stronger about holding accountable, and that these are things that just really turns right around into what needs to be improved. We need to do those things
And
as a council.
another
We,
element.
meaning the next one too.
Yeah, another element, okay, is, and I think this was a poor job on his part, was setting the agendas, okay? When you have an agenda where you have 8, 9, 10 items that you know is gonna take you into the wee hours of the night, okay, you're in essence forcing yourself to hurry up and get it done and not pay attention to the detail. Okay, so the detail suffers on that.
That's
So
where-
I
that's
think
where I
what
like-
we have to do in the future, okay, is not restrict the agenda, but have a better control on the agenda. so it's realistic.
And I think I've already spoke to Mr. Nushai, because I wanted to understand this a little better, which is going to get to what happens at, 6 o'clock tonight when we talk about week managers, the form of government. So under that system, the point is that the city manager handles the day-to-day operations. We do policy, we do budgeting, and day-to-day operations. But that, if you dead stop there, which is where usually people dead stop, that's very vague, it's very incomplete. And then you start, well, what about this? And, what about agendas? And I'm hoping, and I'm not going to get too far into it because that's a 6 o'clock discussion, but I believe, and I've asked a few people that are smarter than me about it, I believe that we have every ability to put some definition around those things without usurping someone else, that structure, that form. And I think that really, to me, is part of this whole problem from the beginning, is that, not just understanding those different roles, but then putting some real structure around them that we can work with that keeps those, because there isn't enough structure. Everybody's doing something because they interpret that definition one way or another way, and with some more structure, like agenda can be one of them easily. There's nothing usurping a city manager's authority if we set a policy where every council member by a certain date can ask for, an agenda item to be added, but they would have to do it in a proper fashion, not just throw this on there, but they would, it would need to come in the form of a memo and certain things. So but then council still can take it off, which is why I say council always has the ultimate control. I think there are ways to do that. I don't disagree, and some of those can be identified. But that's the point. If all you say is the city manager is, day to day and does the agenda, well, that's unsatisfying, and checks and balances are missing. And I think checks and balances are kind of the issue with this whole thing. That's what I would have expected checks and balances. We don't have them with these lack of policies. We don't have, and so defining what those are, again, for everybody's success.
That's where I would see the mayor and city manager, like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, review what they're going to put on the next council agenda. You got to do it like Wednesday or Thursday so we can have the package on time. But that's the way you can bounce something off going, I'm going to keep everybody up till 3 o'clock in the morning talking about 16 presentations, and we got 2 pieces of business, and we put them at the very end, and by then 3 of them are sleeping.
I agree. But
it would be...
Yes. Well, that was supposed to happen, and it didn't.
I know we started doing it, and it went away, but I think we need to bring it back right away, so you can say...
For the record, the very first thing that Chief Sarvello and our clerk did was say, the 3 of us looked at it, had quick input, and that did happen. And
No, we brought everyone together in the room and said, look, we got to keep this thing running, so let's
Keep it
all
moving,
talk, and we
yes.
met in my office and got it done.
And exactly. So I think those are things, but I want to be clear is that I do not like it, and I will never like it when it keeps being the mayor should. Because again, the mayor's only special power is to call these obnoxious special meetings that no one wants to go to. That's my superpower, that's all I got. Everything else is a full council, other than I get to, sit in this chair. So that's fine, and it's fine to have a point person, but everybody needs to have the ability to put their own items on the agenda. And as I said, council as a body can take them off. That's another, wait, because now I'm on a roll. And that's one of the things, study sessions, I believe August is on board with me on this. I proposed it twice. I was shot down twice. And I think it would have solved a lot of these problems, if agenda and some other ones, if we had the bill, question on bills. You have those study sessions ahead of those meetings. They're open, but they're informal, and you simply say, you can ask your questions, and then when you get to the meeting, it goes much smoother, much faster, because the bill question's been asked. It can stay on the darn consent agenda and be done. That's what study sessions are for. August, please feel free to correct me, because I think we're...
No, I think a half hour before the meeting can save 90 minutes during the meeting.
So do I, and I've always said that, and I was shot down.
I've seen it happen.
And I want to bring that back.
Is that...
Would you like that in form of a motion right now?
Please do.
Other cities I've worked in.
Madam Mayor?
That being, you've motioned, pardon me, not motion, but you've scheduled a special meeting for a specific purpose. Wouldn't that more sense?
I have on the thing, other business.
Right, but
For that reason, because I wanted to be able to take, if there was a good idea,
Sure.
and we seem to have consensus from staff.
I'm half
From
of the
me.
staff present.
You don't have to
still
be there
stand-
for the study
you're-
session,
you're like-
because the charter
Point is,
doesn't
we have a
say
meeting
attorney for
point.
study
I'm
session.
not, I agree with that. I'm not.
You do not.
I know I don't have to be there, that's not my point, but what I'm telling you is that because this hasn't been properly noticed, I would ask you to consider doing this at a proper meeting.
I did properly notice it.
I beg to differ, it's not on the agenda, is it?
It says other business, that's why I haven't put it on there.
We can have a motion here right now that the first former member of council that walks into the proceeding should be tarred and feathered and perhaps drawn and quartered. And you could have 3 votes perhaps in this council, which would make former member Mayor Pro Tem Milan be the person to be drawn and quartered. But you're not about to do that. It wouldn't be a properly valid motion. So all I'm asking
hell is an
is.
You're
example?
seriously comparing a study session to drawing and quartering?
Not at all, but I'm saying as far as proper motions and proper notice, that is to
Fine.
illustrate the example.
I'm going to.
I'm more
It's
worried
your
about being able
pleasure.
to start the 6 o'clock meeting on time.
Hey, 6 o'clock.
Want to make the motion?
I know.
You know,
I'm starting to get worried.
Mr. Boucher, let me
You
ask
don't
you.
have to listen to your attorney.
I was
You
just gonna say, is this
you know,
a legal
you could-
thing, or
No,
is this
no,
just
no,
an
no, not
advice
at all.
thing?
It was just
Is
advice.
this a suable thing? Is this a
No, not at all.
holy
It's a
cow
counselor thing giving you some advice, that's all. You don't have to take it.
thing? And sometimes
Madam
you
Mayor?
give great advice. Go
I
ahead.
make a motion that we have a study session, half hour in length, before each regular council meeting.
Hold that thought. August? Just for the sake of, because you've done the mechanics of these before, when would it start? Are we allowing 15 minutes between?
It's up to you. It doesn't, I've seen them start scheduled for an hour before, and sometimes they take 10 minutes. Sometimes they
But
take
I'm
a whole
saying,
hour.
would we do it at
doesn't-
6:15? So, I'm sorry, not 6:15.
Do whatever you like.
6:30, so we had 15 minutes if we needed 10 minutes
Yeah,
recess
people,
between.
I've seen it done both ways.
But we,
Half hour
Usually
seems
people
sufficient?
schedule it for an hour, and then they take a break for whatever time is left.
I don't want to make people come here for an hour that they don't need
That's
to
fine.
be here. I'm asking, you've done a lot more of these.
Yes.
Half hour seem reasonable?
I think it's
45 minutes
a
was
half hour is an
expecting-
excellent starting point, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Can we do a trial period and see how long it lasts?
Well, we can change it anytime.
Yeah.
We get to make motions.
Nothing's-
whenever
none of
we
it's
ask.
permanent.
That's
but in the rest of my motion, it would be some that we could cancel.
Okay.
when
Yes,
you
oh,
realize
absolutely.
there's
We don't need
there's
anything.
nothing
Yes.
to learn. If it's a standard meeting, we already go through it and
The other thing is someone could send questions ahead of time to the city and say, here, and if they need to have, they can say, nope, nobody had any, no study session, we're done. We can,
Sure, and it gets posted separately, and it can be canceled separately.
perfect, thank you. That's why I'm asking for clarity.
would everybody like me to make it 45 minutes instead of 30?
Just because then we'd have a few minutes recess with the
I'll
goal
make it 45 minutes
prior to.
prior to a meeting. Cancelable by the,
Yeah.
before the meeting, if we don't need it.
Okay. So,
Is that,
yeah, all the motion makes sense to me.
okay,
So,
that's, I'll second that.
motion, Sampson, second. Do we want to vote now or talk about it? I think we already talked about
Let's
it.
just vote, because if they vote
Okay.
down, we'll do it a different time.
Councilmember Georges?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Sampson?
Yes,
Mayor Scripture?
Yes,
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Let's give it a shot.
thanks.
outstanding.
I think that'd be great.
All right, I'm also, just for the sake of this, going to remind everybody that we had set many, many months ago a standing, I don't know if you know this, August, a standing date of second Wednesday of after council, some Wednesday, as a possible workshop date. It was supposed to be on the calendar, so everybody
Was it Wednesday
knew
of-
to keep it as, possible penciled in. And then again, same thing, no workshop needed, no workshop had. Instead of having to constantly set workshops, it was like, okay, if we know we got something to do, this is it. Is anybody, we've already motioned it and it's supposed to exist. Can we go back to that?
I'm good with that.
When was it?
I think it was the third Wednesday, but I could.
It was
but when-
after, it
when
was
was
the
it
same week as
approved, right?
council. It was approved last council, but those carry forward.
Okay.
Yeah, unless somebody wants to make a
Is
motion
it
to change
second
it.
Wednesday or third Wednesday?
Wait a minute, I got a motion, or
I
a
believe it was
question
the
for
third.
August.
Third?
Yeah, we got the council, the
I think
CM
it's-
21 dash, and then a number and then dash. Is there a list with the number and what the motion was? Does anybody have
It's
a,
usually assembled at the end of the year. One of the projects is you do an index like
Yeah.
that. I don't know if one previously exists. I can look. I haven't tried to look up anything like that way before, so.
or is you just use this normal method of going through all the,
Yeah.
because I'll try to look it up, but
I can take some time and look it up too.
Okay. You want another motion?
For what?
You have a second.
I think you already have it, Councilmember Sampson. It
It's
exists.
been
All
a
we need to do.
standing one, we
yeah,
just
it's-
haven't used it.
Yeah.
All right, let's
I'm
leave it.
suggesting, I'm reminding them, and it's an option.
And if you don't have business in one of these 45-minute work sessions, you can bring someone in to give a workshop on that too. You know,
Let's
it's
start
already
using it.
there,
The
same
nice thing is
day.
it's standing, so when
Yeah.
you or someone else is like, what date shall,
Blocked.
well, there you go.
I
It's
understand.
already plopped out, and everybody should have it, and we'll verify if it's that first or
And that's
third, I
something
can't
that
remember. It's
The
either
third.
first or third.
We can administratively look up
Yeah.
and we can plug it back in at any time.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Could we
let's-
publish a calendar saying,
It's on there.
It's on there.
or is it on the calendar?
I mean, we have a calendar. I don't know what you put. If you don't want to put a workshop on that doesn't exist, it's for our purposes to
You
know.
can hold it on your own calendar.
Yes, we hold it on our own calendar, and it would go on the calendar if a workshop was set.
So it's the third
I
Wednesday.
believe so. We'll double check, but I believe so. It was the Wednesday after a council meeting. So, okay, and I'm just reminding that was there, and I think we could stop doing crazy other nights. Okay, so then, moving along, so we can get out of here. I will actually type up the notes on that, August, because I've taken
Sure.
some, and I might run them by you to see if you concur, but, and then I have actually something I want to do with those and bring back to council, so you'll all get to indulge me on an agenda someday. All right, so if I can find my count. So next on, so thank you very much for indulging me with that after-action review. I honestly believe it might help us put some things in place for the next city council to not make some of the same mistakes and have more effective stuff. All right, the next one, at the last meeting, went ahead and said, yes, I could go ahead and make some inquiry phone calls. I would like to talk about what I learned. I would like to talk about, let me just talk about what I learned. Please, nobody jump in with motions, please. Let me just get through it. So we had talked about at least reaching out and seeing what an interim, what might be available. One of the things we did not have the opportunity to talk about would be other potential options. So I am going to raise those now because I did do some research, I did reach out, I have some ideas, I even have a potential, but I want to talk about some other options. So we can go out for an outside interim. I did speak with Chief Sarvello, and last time, he was not feeling like he wanted to take on the role of an interim. I spoke to him, and he would. He feels that he could do that and would be interested in taking on the role of interim this time. And so that is another option. I only actually have one resume as a thing, but I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to say it right now, the option of bringing in an interim from an outside is very expensive. So, Chief Sarvello said he's interested. And I'm going to throw a layer on that because in my conversations in looking at GovTemps and interims, I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Vetriano. If anybody's familiar with him, he used to be the city manager of Rochester. He's been interim city manager through GovTemps for other cities. And he does in the summer, he'll do, but he also teaches at Rochester College. Highly respected in the community, the bigger community of city managers and that type of stuff. So I did get a chance to speak with him, and as I was talking to him about what we might need and my concerns, which I think we haven't talked about it tonight, but I think we've all agreed in one way or another that finance budget issues are there and need to be addressed. That's probably the biggest thing, because that is our thing. That is our thing. We can let an interim city manager do the day-to-day stuff, but that is our thing, policies and whatever. So how do we get to focus on that? One of the things that he mentioned to me is that there is a gentleman named John Kazor. He only had the time to send me a little bit of information, but City of Rochester, I think you might have seen it. That is one of the financial reports that I have shared several times and said this is an excellent example of, and you've seen it where
I went on YouTube for their council
Right,
meetings
right.
and
So
saw the
you-
fact
yes.
that they approved their budget, and it was a very simple meeting. They had everything beforehand.
because they'd had plenty of meetings.
Yep.
So let me just explain how that happened, because I didn't know this. In fact, where'd you go? Mr. Newshai, when I was asking him about this, jumped in and he said, well, I don't know, Rochester probably has better, lots of staff and more people to do it. And I'm like, time out, bud, not the case. This gentleman, John Kazor, actually similar to what Giffords came in and said they had the CIP, their goal is to, they facilitate the process the first time, they set up the process so then we can do it ourselves. They help staff, train staff, so it becomes internal, so we're not paying for that all the time, right? Come in and tweak smaller parts, but that is exactly what Mr. Kazor did. He actually came into the city of Rochester. Their staff was no, necessarily better or brilliant at that stuff, and he said, look, and he helped put that system in place. He helped teach them both, same model, helped them develop it, created it, taught them how to do it themselves, gave them the template and the information, and then they've been using it ever since. He came in, I think, 5 or so years later, did a tune-up, a tweak. But, so he brought those, and he really brings to the table is a communication on budgeting and a way, anybody can run a BS&A report. He brought in a way to communicate it both to the public, to whatever, and following these templates and these things. So why I'm bringing that up is because, and I'm sharing my personal opinion right now, we haven't voted on this, I personally think that Scott could do a fine job. I think that Council Member Moffitt made a good point, maybe not the one she meant to make when she said the bills were paid, permits were issued, taxes were collected. I do believe staff is quite capable of carrying out with the day-to-day operations. I'm absolutely positive that the teamwork that they have, August, the chief, can all work together to keep those day-to-day things going. And then we can focus, but I think I would really like to recommend, instead of spending this kind of money, we look at maybe bringing this Mr. Kazor in, because that is our big thing. First of all, we have no policies about budgeting, we have no systems. This is his expertise. He can help guide council, and then staff, we say what we want, he helped, and what the process is, a budget calendar, all those things we've been promised for so long and never got. And then also help with, how does the reporting look? More communication, better communication on that budget. I haven't talked to him yet, I haven't reached out to him, I don't know, but I would at least like permission to reach out to him. And then I guess, I lost my train of thought.
You need that in the form of a motion.
Yeah, hold on a second. Okay, yes. Yes. Well, first, no, because I think the first order of business would be to decide, do we want to pursue further going with a GovTemps and looking to bring in an interim, or would we like to go ahead and appoint Chief Sarvello as, and by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, the motion's going to have to include and to discuss with Mr. Nushai possible whatever, if there's extra remuneration that might be part of it.
Allow me opportunity to negotiate with you, Sarvello.
So whatever that word is, we're tacking that onto this, if we make that motion. So actually, I don't know where anybody stands on that, so I'm going to suggest someone make a motion. We can either vote it down or up and talk about it. Those are the options I'm proposing.
I'll make the motion to appoint our acting city manager as interim city manager. And how do you want that part?
Authorize city attorney to negotiate with him.
August, did you hear my lips move?
Yeah, I got you.
Thanks.
I will second that. Now, again, we can vote this down, I just wanted to have something on the table.
Yeah.
So, and maybe there's a third option I'm not thinking of, but those are.
I think the chief's, he's involved, he knows, but he always does a great job, so I think he'd be a good fit for a few months, if we don't work him to death. And then.
Well, that's the thing, right? So as far as we've got, as the mayor said, we've got a budget issue, right?
But he knows how to delegate, and that'll work.
Okay.
The delegation, nobody can do this job, and I think we noticed that. So I think he'll delegate to the right people, surround yourself with good people, despite how you make mistakes, they'll drag you right to the top. So he'll know how to delegate, and I think that's.
We are also capable, just like this, of saying, we would like a consultant to come in and help with this. Our policy, policies, budget, that is also in the sense of those are our duties. So if we feel like we want outside, we can ask for it. And leave Chief Sarvello and the staff to the things that they do and do well, and start, again, because I think we all relatively agreed on this consensus that we could have done, and I say we as council, knowing it might be different people, but council as a body could have done a better job and can do a better job with some policies and structure. So, I guess that's.
And I guess, one thing that I would like to have seen, right, is establishing best practices,
Yes.
right? And so you've referenced a couple communities, right?
We're in the middle of a motion and a debate on it.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure
Okay.
that you mentioned that before as far as your experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? But as far as that, and I'm not looking for you for input as far as what that should be. I'm just saying as far as that, what I'm looking for as far as best practice. And if we have somebody that here that sounds like they've already established that with other communities that are similar in size to us, with similar resources and similar constraints, similar population, I think that's good. So, but as far as, I really want to make sure that,
But we can make a separate motion on that. That's why I was bringing it up.
Yeah.
Because I think that, in my opinion, that I brought it up the way I did because I think it clears the way for Chief Sarvello to do what he needs to do as an interim without that, and helps us focus on what we should be doing.
yes.
And maybe gets at what we've already said is that was, maybe could have been done better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree with that.
but that can be a separate motion.
Yeah.
Anything from George on Chief Sarvello?
Oh, I think he's, yes,
As an interim
yes.
while
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. You were gonna say something else, Mayor Pro Tem?
I'll wait till we go to the gov part.
What go for it?
Well, if you bring this, you're talking about
This other person?
bringing the other person in.
Okay, they're not gov temps, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, so as far as gov temps, we're saying that, okay, that's.
Yes, we are choosing to not go this route,
Okay.
and we are choosing to go the route of Chief Sarvello as the interim city manager.
And that's based off of the previous time we've used gov temps and what we've experienced in the past as far as.
There's nothing wrong with them.
No, I know, but you're saying as far as expense, right?
Well, both expense, and I guess I should have, I've also chatted with a few staff to get a gauge on their feeling, and I think the general consensus on staff is they would prefer not to have the disruption of an outside person come in, that they feel like they work, again, I think the point was made well, even though I don't know if that's what the point was meant to be made, that they do get the job done, and I will say that this storm, I don't know how anybody else feels, but I thought Chief Sarvello did an outstanding job of instant communication and community, making sure it was done. I know he worked with Nick on that. I know he worked with, I think he did exactly the thing that we had been wanting for a long time. So I think we can all feel that that's gonna happen, right? And I think staff this few staff I've talked to have felt that.
I was gonna do it later on, but personally thank him for what a great job he did. It was exactly what we've been asking for, to the point where, hey,
Impeccable.
put your sticks on the corner, I'll come pick them up tomorrow.
It was impeccable.
It was great, and that's all we've been asking for and it was a lot of different vehicles. It was an email, it was Facebook.
Yep.
It was great.
was
Chief,
awesome.
if you're listening to us, you did a great job.
Yeah, keep that
Hope
up.
you're one of the
and then,
27 people that are currently watching.
Never gonna, yeah, that was, so yes, so the motion.
Yeah, I
would
certainly
be-
appreciated that, just to
Yeah.
go on, to compound on that, the fact that, it was a text that I received that was like, okay, this is exactly what we need as far as boots on the ground within minutes, as far as what's been happening. Various questions as far as, okay, what's where, I think we were in communication as far as the hot spots around the community. And, certainly, I certainly appreciated that. That was really good.
So I'm gonna call the vote.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sampson.
Yes.
Mayor Scripture.
Yes.
Councilman Shepard.
Yes.
Councilman Georges.
Yes.
And Councilmember Moppa is absent. Congratulations, Chief.
Chief, if you're out there,
So then,
Welcome to class.
I'm gonna make it easy. I'm not gonna recommend that we retain this person because I haven't had a chance to explore. I just had the chance to do some of this preliminary research. I'd like to, or if someone wants to make the motion, that I be authorized to bring back.
I'm gonna throw the South Say Arbor Field in there. we don't use a consensus. We only vote. We can use consensus. This is a thing of.
No, we can't, Lou.
No, we can tell you, you can go call them.
We
No,
need a
you
vote,
can't.
Lou.
You need a vote.
You need a
And if I may, before, prior to, because that's a charter requirement, Councilmember Sampson.
It
In most
I
charters-
tried, trust me, I tried.
I gave you three. It's a charter.
He did. It's a charter requirement. If I
That's
may.
why I made this a special meeting, for precisely this
All
reason,
right,
so we
I'll make the
can't.
motion.
Prior to making the motion, if I may, just give you a little bit of background, because this may be a legal requirement, and maybe this will guide your thinking and guide your motion. So section 2.208 of our Code of Ordinances talks about the power of council. It says, council shall have the authority to enter into or make any contract on behalf of the city which it deems advantageous to the city, and which is not prohibited by law. The council may, upon the affirmative resolution of 4 members, dispense with competitive bidding upon written recommendation of the purchasing agent. In such case, council shall order the preparation of a contract for submission to it. Council may approve any contract by resolution and ordinance. The next section underneath talks about competitive bidding, and the purchasing agent is the city manager. So whatever authority I think that you're going to grant on account of your motion, it perhaps makes sense that it be given, it be sent through the city manager, and thereafter have a kind of, since we're talking about a specific person, a specific individual.
I wasn't suggesting I retain or get.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
And the
We're talking about
reason-
contact.
Right,
Contact,
but,
that's all.
yes, and I am not saying that we wouldn't, what I'm saying is I would like to do that research, because you know, this shit can go on forever, people. We need to move, we need to do stuff, we've got work to do, we've got the space to do the work. So I'm just simply suggesting this and saying that we would, yes, I would go get the darn information if it has, Chief Cervello is the one that needs to do. I will tell you this, I really don't think Chief wants to have to get stuck in the middle of a bunch of
But
other
that's not,
discussions.
and I imagine
Yes.
that come 6 o'clock, what you're going to hear is that regardless of our thoughts
I
as to how
understand.
things should work,
I wasn't saying-
they have to work a certain way.
I didn't go there. I
I know you
simply said I
didn't,
would
but
get the
let's
information.
just, we have to do it properly. And I think Councilmember Sampson is about to give us that exact motion.
Give it. Do it.
We are not going to spend, what I'm asking for, hey, give him a call. If he says $100,000, you can go, well, let's call it tomorrow.
I'll do the research, I'll bring it back to Cervello. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Thank you.
So it's referred back to the chief as far as,
No,
Now, I
refer-
can share it with council too, but my research,
No.
that's fine, but I'm gonna refer to.
Share it with council. And then if we decide that we want, if you say something like it's going to cost us $200,000.
No,
we'll
no,
say,
no.
well, hold on a second, so we,
No.
so going back to Chief Cervello, so we've now said that we want him to be the interim city manager. It's still dependent upon him accepting it, although he seems like he's in the affirmative, right?
Correct.
Okay, so do we need to have him actually have a formal acceptance before we?
No, not
Because he's
necessarily.
already interim now, right?
By charter,
Yeah.
obviously, we impose certain duties and obligations to the chief of
Okay.
police. And then he is the assistant city manager by motion of council on
Okay.
prior occasions.
I was just
I think we're 99% there.
Okay.
And I had a conversation with the chief about this particular topic, should the eventuality arise. Today's evening, he has indicated that he would, obviously, if council so
Talked
wishes.
to him right before I got here, he said he'd take it.
So,
Yes.
We remember how smooth those negotiations went for me.
There you are.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I
No, I
already
just
talked to him, he
wanted
said
to-
yes.
yeah.
My
Yes.
point is, my
Just in
God,
case.
did you have to make this hard? All I said is I would call and get the information, I know exactly what I was supposed to do.
Still a
with it.
process, right?
Just asking for the authority.
still process, as
Nothing.
Councilmember Shepherd just indicated.
Yes, so let's make the motion and vote. You made it. Can we vote? Can we do it?
Who was the second?
Me.
Sure.
And then I will
Mayor Pro
bring
Tem
it back to
Sampson.
council members, or council.
Mayor Scripture,
Yes,
Councilman Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilman Georges,
Yes.
thank
Councilmember
you.
Moffett is absent.
I will get the information, I will share with the chief, we will take it from there. I also have one other, I forgot. Because really seriously.
Sometimes it pays to be a contrarian, sometimes it doesn't.
I'm gonna pay you for, yeah. All right, so we've come up with that. Damn you. Totally flew out of my head. Yes. Where was I? Okay, so we have passed that. I will contact GovTemps and let them know that we have decided to go with one of our existing resources. And I will do as we just said here. I also Question then, because the other one's a workshop, not of this.
Yes.
So I think along the line somewhere with this whole policies and being clear on this, facilitation is going to be a good thing. That's something we can talk to about Cervello.
I'm sorry, one more time?
You really don't follow me. Come on, keep up. Okay. I said, as the workshop this evening,
Yes.
I suspect, as we've already talked about, there will be some fleshing out of the things that
Absolutely.
we learn, so we
Absolutely.
can actually put them in place.
Absolutely.
And I suspect it's going to be prudent to get a facilitator, because that just makes sense, that might have a little bit of that
You
extra,
mean down the road for,
to help us form some of those more specifics. Otherwise, we'll sit here all night and argue with you.
that's what I love doing, that's why I'm here.
My question was, that would be something we would talk
I
to
think that's
the
a
chief
decision for
about.
council down the road, absolutely. I mean, you could, I know.
But you just said what you said about the securing, so that would be something we would say we want to do.
If
and
you,
then
absolutely,
direct.
if you would,
Okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
certainly.
And I guess one of the questions I'm going to end up asking tonight is there a frickin' law against the city manager delegating to an actual council member or something else? There isn't.
Yeah,
is
it
there?
gets tricky. Well, it depends on,
We'll ask
this
it
is,
tonight.
this is that plethora of, potential motions, potential actions that any one of us can take. You're right in your earlier commentary with respect to where do we draw the line? It is an amorphous kind of,
Yes,
moving
so we're going to
back
draw
and
some
forth.
lines.
Well, and sometimes it's not necessarily possible, so it depends on an issue.
But sometimes it is.
By issue basis. Certainly, sometimes it is.
Sometimes we can
Cer-
we can figure some of those things out ahead of time, like the agenda, like some other stuff.
And you have, and with the agenda, you have a charter that speaks to it. You have a code of ordinances that speak with respect to the agenda. It's silent as to council having any input.
Correct.
Hence what?
There's some flexibility.
No, there isn't.
It's silent.
That silence
Didn't say
goes in
no.
favor of the city manager, which says it's his agenda.
And we have.
There's a component, I imagine.
Oh my
I
God, we're
think
doing
you're-
this tonight. We're not doing this right now. Done. Tonight.
Yeah, I guess I'm excited for it too.
Me too. This is gonna be fun. Do we hit yes?
Any other business?
Well, I have on here any other business. And so yes, any other business.
Okay, I got a motion.
Here we go.
I make a motion that we direct, be the interim city manager, to amend the former city manager's decision to terminate Matt Hodges to be an administrative leave with pay pending a review. What are you looking at me like that for?
Because Lou,
Obviously, there's a second to that if we go to that motion. The
Okay,
motion is aspirational.
second, so I can say this.
Yeah.
Lou,
Yeah.
you just always have a way of, just when I think we're,
Yeah.
yes. So go
I
ahead,
think he's got his hand up over this.
go.
I have a second, but I'd like to modify his motion a bit, okay? And the modification is that we rehire Matt right now. We don't put any time limit, to sit and ask questions. The man, knows his job, he's got 21 years' experience. I want to say, was it 3 weeks ago, we had that water break on Nakota and whatever the street was? I mean, he sent me a text message. He didn't know me. He sends me a text message, lets me know there's a break, okay? I went out there, sat and talked to his foreman on the job. It was I learned that we have two types of concrete in our streets. We've got a bad concrete and a good concrete, okay? And the function of the bad concrete, it takes too long to cut it with a diamond blade saw on that. So it was knowledgeable, okay? I just, like I said, I want to modify the motion, okay? That we immediately
Not my
retire.
motion.
I don't understand what was modified.
Okay, and I had we're still going to do the decision to terminate Matt Hodges to be reinstated effective immediately.
That's the motion you made? No,
No, he wants me to
my
modify it, so I'm going to modify it.
you're amending your motion.
I'll amend it to, if he wants to do that, I'll do that.
Immediate. I'm easy to
You
get along
seconded
with.
it, so you're,
I'll second
oh,
the
I
motion.
thought you
now.
did.
You already did in a minute.
But, yeah, but I seconded with the modification, and he's accepting
Yeah,
it.
I'm just
so-
saying, you
yes.
second, so you agree, you're
Yes,
second, yeah,
yes,
you meant it,
yes,
okay.
yes.
And so
Can you read
obviously.
that back?
And before we do that, obviously, council should know that it is the city managers, interim city managers at this point, purview as to whether to hire or not hire. This is, I think, a request and aspirational in nature.
Or it's one of those times that they ignore you, because apparently that seems to be ignore Wednesday.
Perhaps.
I don't know, I'm just saying, seems to be that day. Discussion, obviously those two discussed.
So I guess I would love to have that happen, but, I'm sorry.
Everyone has to use their microphone.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
They're all sitting back comfortable.
No, you're right. Yeah.
We need longer microphones.
I know. Put something to put on their
Microphones.
collar, yeah. I think it's something that we were just discussing, that it needs to be under the purview of a city manager. I would love to see that happen immediately, but I think it needs to be something that, again, following process, as we were just discussed, that's, and I like the aspirational, that we say this is our desire, and that we would strongly recommend that happen.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, oh, that's right, I was thinking 5, okay. Councilmember Moffat's not here.
The city manager is out of town for the next 2
I'm
weeks, by the
thinking-
way, just so you know.
I'm thinking, it's my turn to talk, and I
All
have
right,
to
so
think.
that was the information.
When I get curveballs, I have to think. Thank you. So a couple minutes ago, I said that when I even suggested chief, which I think is a good suggestion, I'm glad staff's happy. One of the things I said is having, the bills paid, the comment, we have those things in place. I know, Rennes, don't yell. I actually like that for a primary reason, in that I would really like to just have all the pieces in place, no job searches, do you have all the people, we have all the hires, right? I think that was, the things have been filled that are supposed to be filled, your deputy, those things, right?
My office is where it's supposed to be.
Is there
right now.
another office? I know we have little crossing guards and stuff, but I'm talking about,
What was it, Parks and Rec? That's still in?
Yeah,
but
there's
that's a
some
front
stuff
desk
there.
person, but these are not major decision-making and leadership and whatever, right? We've got our people in place.
As far as I know, I think we don't have any department head spots at the moment, except for.
I fully
Public
give
Works.
chief permission to come back and scream, but honestly, I just would prefer to have that stability of all the way around, and then let that focus be on keeping things not just running, but running well, and let us do our jobs. That was the last one. Call the vote.
So what does that, wait. So what does that mean, as far as
It
the,
means I'm probably going to vote yes,
So
and
this
I'm getting
is
yelled at by the attorney and Chief Sarvello.
a motion to direct the city manager to rehire the terminated public works director, not pending review, that was removed, and it's immediately?
Immediately.
that's the,
That's the amended version that was agreed to by,
That's
that's what's on the floor, okay?
what you guys said?
That's what, okay. Mayor Scripture,
Yes.
Councilman Shepherd,
no.
Councilman Georges,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett is absent, Mayor Pro Tem Sampson.
Yes.
We'll let the interim city manager know.
I will be sending a mea culpa. And get sent over.
I'll see, make a motion to adjourn. Is that next?
Second. Can we eye that one?
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Oh, I'm kidding.
I wish.
But we could do
What do
eyes.
I?
Councilmember
No,
Georges.
We
Yes.
can't.
Councilmember Moffett is absent, Mayor Pro Tem Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor
yes.
Scripture. We are adjourned.
Meeting back here in half an hour.